You can help as we go along, as we have the question and answers, to even share with your fellow brothers and sisters. And the key thing is using a budget. I hope that's something that you practice, something that you have. As I said, many are drowning in debt, and the question is there freedom? Yes, there is. How do we get out of it? And I think the starting part is budgeting, and budget offers quite a bit. It says here, what's a budget? It's a plan you write down to decide how you will spend your money. And I put in bracket each month. Some people do it by a year, but when you're starting off, start off with a month. Okay? Go back. Okay, thank you. It says it allows you to make sure you have enough money. So the goals of budgeting, it helps you work towards long-term goals. It can keep you from overspending, can make retirement savings easier, helps you prepare for emergencies, and can reveal spending habits. So why is it important? It helps create financial stability. By tracking your expenses and following a plan, a budget makes it easier to pay bills on time, build an emergency fund, save for major expenses such as a car or a home. Overall, a budget puts a person on stronger financial footing for both the day-to-day and the long term. So here's the key reasons, even though the goal is very similar. The key reasons for a budget: it can help build financial independence and freedom. Budget can also set you on the right path to achieving your financial goals. So if you're trying to get out of debt and your goal is to be out of debt, you have debt right now, out of debt, this is a way to do it. Helps with spending within your means. Helps saving for a time, as I said earlier, building an emergency fund. But I think the key thing is analyzing your spending habits. That's the key. Once we understand our spending habits, then we know how to adjust it. Because the spending habits are what put us in trouble, actually, because we're not quite sure we are. So and you're going to see how the budget will help us. So if we can go to the next slide, I'm just going to give you a quick sample here. With your budget each month, this is a simplified one, but most would have more than this that's here. But the key ones is, at the top is your income. Look at your expenses. When you deduct your expenses from your income, aim for a positive balance. If not, aim to break even. What that means, your income equal your expenses, and it's zero. Don't go into the negative. Always aim for positive. Personally, I believe you should include savings as part of your budget. It wouldn't like, oh, here's my salary, let me take up my living expenses, and anything I get left over, I put it in savings. I think it's important to put savings a part of the budget, because things come up that we are not prepared for, and a lot of times you may not find anything left over. And therefore, we keep putting the savings aside, and we say, oh, we don't have enough, and therefore that bucket gets less and less, or it doesn't get built up. So I do believe it's possible. Then it includes savings as part of that budget. So we look at the income, whatever source of income you have, like in this case, you have your salary, partner's salary. If you're married, it's the same thing. Just look at all your income coming in. And then your expenses. Now, one of the key things I want to stress is as we look at budget, then we have actual. And this is what I'm saying. Each month as you go through, you budget a certain amount for rent, which typically more than likely rent and mortgage stays the same. It doesn't vary very much unless you have a variable rate on your mortgage, which is very rare now, right? So it would stay the same. So more than likely your budget and your actual in that case may not be different. But electricity bill, water, gas, all those different things you have, there could be some variations. So as you look, you say, well, maybe we're using too much water here, maybe we can cut back. There are just certain things that you can look at this and see the actual. And if you realize that, oh, I probably budget too much because my actual is less, then that's what I'm saying. Analyzing your spending habits so you can see where you can tweak to get it where you actually fit in within the budget, right? So this is a process, it's a working process, it's not set in stone. It's not set in stone where this is it. It's constantly analyzing and to see, okay, maybe if you look and say, oh, I have an overage at the end of the month. Oh, maybe I have some more to put aside. So you can increase your savings. Or maybe something comes that you weren't prepared for. How can we tweak all the expenses to make sure we can still cover that and still stay within our budget? And that's what I'm saying. Looking at your budget, looking at how you spend and being able to shift things around to get it to where you need to be. And just know, getting in debt didn't happen overnight if that's where you are. And it's not going to fix overnight, but it is a process. And there are things that are learned. And trust me, I can attest to you and I can tell you that I have been there. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. When you said journey, I'm talking from experience where I didn't practice certain habits when I was younger. And I'm telling you, by the grace of God, through prayer and discipline, I can say that God has allowed me. So I'm going to share and share with you what I've experienced and what I'm telling you works. It's practical, it's real, and God can get you there. I couldn't see at some point, say, how am I going to do this? And I remember praying and said, Lord, this is you. This is you. And He allowed me. And by discipline, and trust me, it was painful. So now we're going to talk about, in regards to financial wellness, just some practical steps going forward. So now I'll have Dr. Carlos take over from here in regards to financial wellness.
All right. Thank you, Venessa, for such a wonderful presentation. I think you really brought out some real practical ways whereby we can use or ask the Spirit of God to lead us as we manage the resources we have. So what is financial wellness? Financial wellness is a measure of an individual's financial status. Financial wellness occurs when we are financially literate. And by financially literate, what we're saying here is that you have the necessary education on your finances. When we're financially literate, then we will be able to make prudent decisions regarding the stewardship of the resources that God bestows on us, thereby enhancing our well-being. I just want to kind of bring in another thing here because generally speaking, I really think as a body, as a group, as a Seventh-day Adventist people, corporately, we really need to think more about how we actually manage the resources that God has given us. An example I'm going to bring out to you is that when I took over for a large church, the church was at a point whereby it was hard to pay its light bill. And you say to yourself, how can a huge church actually be operating? Your expenses are so higher than the income, the revenue you're generating. So, it leads you to a lot of questions there. And lo and behold, when I took over as treasurer, we went into that church, and the church didn't even have a bank reconciliation for years. So we're managing individually, we're managing God's resources, but we're also corporately responsible for managing those resources too. Next slide. How to practice financial literacy. One second. All right. How to practice financial literacy. Financial wellness is a measure of an individual's financial status. After you have established a basic understanding of financial literacy concepts, it is time to apply that knowledge towards making informed financial decisions and establishing healthy money management habits. You think about it. We go to the doctor when we get sick. We want to be well, we want to be healthy. So it's the same thing with your finances. Health and wealth are important for the human being, are important to actually serve God. Because if you're financially stressed, then in essence, I don't see how you're going to be able to cope then with cope with actually evangelizing to others, because the finances are in your brain. So what we're saying here is that if you just take the necessary steps to be financially literate, then that can help you in serving the mission for God. All right. I'm stuck here. 1 second. Oh. I'm a little stuck here. Just give me a split second. Oh, next one. All right. So basically, 1 second. Just give me a split second. So we do financial. Okay. The first step I would recommend Remember, as we said before, and I want to emphasize, we're not financial advisors. We're just basically sharing information based on our own experiences. Build an emergency fund. You should have at least 6 months worth of living expenses at any one particular time. Let's say your job, for some reason, is outsourced or you're laid off and all that. You need to have a little emergency fund set aside so at least you can continue living for a little while. Unexpected events such as loss of job and medical emergencies. Think about it. One of the major expenses that we have right now, or as you get older, is medical expenses. So therefore, we gotta set aside and consider that as we plan to live on this earth. Setting up savings account and consistently contributing to it as an emergency fund. I know it's difficult, it's hard, but you just gotta, as Venessa pointed out before, you just gotta do that little budgeting. Here are your income and here are your expenses. If you're making $100, you cannot be spending $200. You gotta do something about it. So that's building an emergency fund. Managing debts and credit. Oh, we think about the first thing that comes to mind is those credit cards. We got to be able to get to a point whereby we say, look, we just cannot spend what we don't have. So I'm not saying that credit cards aren't good. Credit cards are good, excellent, because we got to build credit. It's necessary to credit stuff. But at the same time, we got to be cognizant of the fact that we don't have the income, so we should not be spending, we should not be incurring the expense. Become financially literate also requires understanding different types of debts, such as credit cards, loans, and mortgages, along with their respective interest rates. It is essential to recognize the impact of debt on your credit score and overall financial health. So oftentimes our young adults, they basically just think you just get a credit card and you just basically charge it, and for some reason or somehow that money will come by to just pay it. So no, that's not a good strategy. You got to plan as you go along. Develop a plan to pay off high interest rate debts and maintain a good credit score is key to managing your finances effectively. So therefore, we know for sure we're in debt. We know for sure that we have those credit cards. What we got to do now, we're not saying that everything is going to suddenly change overnight, but you got to start developing a plan in order to get out of that debt. Because as we said before, if you're in debt and if you have the financial struggle going to bed every night thinking about it, think about it. I know for you, I can't serve the Lord if it's on my brain. It's going to stress me out. All right, invest wisely. Mastering the basic principles of investing. Risk and reward, diversification. By that, we're saying here, there's certain investments that are risky. There's some that are low risk. So therefore, when you consult with your financial advisors, they'll actually guide you along that way. But if you're in doubt, what I usually say, go the conservative route. Things like bonds are, the bonds are secured by the federal government, so therefore, at least, the interest rate is not high, but at least it's, your money is secured. And you got to consider the compounding of the interest as you go along. Familiarizing yourself with different investment options such as stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, and begin investing according to your risk tolerance, time horizon, and financial goals. So in essence, if you know you're a person who, if you put some money in a high-risk venture and tomorrow that the entity is liquidated or belly up or went under, then you're going to lose a lot. So if you're a conservative person, if your risk tolerance is low, then I wouldn't recommend that you go into higher risk investments. So you basically got to plan that along with your financial advisor, and they'll kind of take you through the road with that. Plan for retirement. This is so critical because you find so many of us, Adventists, non-Adventists, ready to retire, but yet we have to be working till 80, 90 years old. I mean, it should be an option. If you want to do it, yes, but it shouldn't be compulsory or mandatory that, hey, you don't have the financial resources to maintain your standard of living when you get to that age. So what we say here is understanding various retirement savings vehicles such as 401k, IRAs, and Roth IRA. In particular, 401k. Remember now, if you contribute to that, your employer will also put in some level of percentage in that. So you want to make sure that you maximize on the amount that you can put into your 401k because you're getting a match for that. You're getting some free money there. Hefty penalty, and there's a hefty penalty for withdrawal before age 59 and a half, except for education and first-time home buyer. So you got to be cognizant of that also. You have all this money stored up in your 401k, and yet some people just say, tomorrow I want to pull it out. No, that's not how it works. Remember, it's a retirement plan account. So therefore, just bear that in mind. So for young people, for like first-time home buyers, yes. And for educational purpose, yes, you could do that. But my advice, I'm not a financial advisor, my advice is, look, just tell yourself that, look, you're putting aside this 401k for a retirement purpose. Employers' contribution can be significant. Maximize your contribution to 401k. It's important to recognize the benefits of starting to save for retirement early and create a saving plan that works for you. Here again, you're going to get with your financial advisor, and they'll help you. And as a matter of fact, if you think about it, we have so many resources now on the internet, Google, library, all that information is there. So you can actually do some research for yourselves and make sure you're actually planning your way out. Consistently contribute to your retirement accounts will help you achieve your financial goals. Understanding insurance. Learning about the purpose of different types of insurance, including life, health, auto, home insurance, is vital for financial literacy. Understanding the concepts of premium, deductibles, coverage limits to ensure you have adequate protection for your assets. Regularly evaluate your insurance needs and adjust your coverage as necessary. A key thing here, which I would also emphasize, is that if you're a young person, young adult, and you're going into the work world, try to analyze or see whether or not you're going to have insurance coverage. Okay, you're going to say to yourself, yeah, I'm young, I'm not going to need it. But hey, if you're going to spend 20, 30 years with this entity and you don't have any health benefits, you might have some problems later on. So just think about, I usually say, think about where you're going to work. And if to me, if the benefits doesn't, it doesn't outweigh the rewards, then in essence, you gotta plan that into your, you gotta put that into your planning process. Navigate taxes. Yeah, familiarize yourself with the basic income taxes, tax deduction, tax credits. That's important for financial literacy. Here, you can also work with your accountant, and because every investment you do, there's some tax ramification. So you work with your financial analyst and your accountant to see the best avenue, because there are legitimate means and ways where you can invest your money to minimize or to reduce taxes. Legitimate ways. Understand the tax implication of various financial decisions, such as investing and retirement contribution, to make informed choices and optimize your financial situation. Set and achieve your financial goals. Finally, learning how to set realistic short-term and long-term financial goals is essential for success. We got to get to the point whereby finances, just like health, is a part of our lives. So if we plan for health, we got to plan for finances. If we don't plan for finances, what's going to happen? What I'm saying is that you'll be stressed out, and to me, I don't see, if you're stressed out, how you can actually effectively serve the Lord. Developing a plan to achieve your financial goals, complete with milestones and timelines, and monitor your progress regularly. What I'm saying here is that, look, throughout my life, I schedule all my activities. If you know exactly, my wife usually tells me, she don't know how but I schedule everything. Because if I don't have the things scheduled, I'll never accomplish anything. So the same thing we're saying here. For your financial well-being, you want to ensure that you set milestones and make sure you try and live with those milestones. And this seemed to be the end of our presentation. So I'm going to open up the floor for questions for both either me or Venessa can chip in and answer those. So let's see I'm sure you have a wealth of questions. So let's open up the floor and see what questions you have. And as we go along, we'll see if we can answer them. No questions? No questions? Oh.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hello?
Okay, it's nice. You don't know who's talking, but
Of course I know it's Bentley.
Okay. Thanks for the information. I just wondered what resources are available, financial counseling from the conference or union standpoint. I know they offer, what's it?
Estate planning?
Yes. And I know it usually comes with some encouragement to consider the mission of the conference as part of, your disbursements when should we pass. So what other resources would you know of that are available to regular church members?
I'm going to say I don't know. And I'll tell you from my perspective, what I think is, as a church, we're lacking education, or at least we don't see it as important to educate our local church members on, we talk about the spiritual side, but we forget the other aspects. And I think that's something that needs to be developed. Because in the arena I work, I can tell you that I do give instructions to conferences of how to handle their finances. So if they don't have it down pat, then you would not be able to direct the Lord Church how to do it. If I have, what I'm saying? I honestly think it's something the church has to come together and realize it is important. If we have a mission, we have to be able to handle those resources, but also teach, especially individuals, but even local churches. Local churches struggle a lot in handling the finances, just because of how the things are structured. So I don't know if there are any resources off the bat, but I really think it's something that needs to be developed. From a conference perspective, from a union perspective, that there's financial education all the way down, that everybody can benefit from it.
Right. And I would certainly endorse what Venessa just said. And as we said before, I strongly believe, I've been over Seventh-day Adventist, close to 25 years now. And one of the area which I think we're really lacking in is just financial management. It's lacking both at that corporate level, as I say before, in the church level, the conference level, and the individual level. So I think we really have to start educating our folks as to what it means to be good stewards of the resources that God has blessed us with. I told you before, when I took over as a young Seventh-day Adventist, one of the largest church in the north, they didn't even have a bank reconciliation. As simple as a bank reconciliation wasn't being done. So really you can say to yourself, financial management, finance stewardship wasn't really there.
I wanted to add something, Carlos. We had that Sabbath school lesson a couple quarters ago dealing with stewardship. And I think it was good, but at the same time, there were not practical checklists, because when you're teaching someone to change habits, you don't just give them a big book and say, go ahead and figure it out. That doesn't work. It has to be, let's look at your situation step by step, and let me give you a template to work with. So here's checklist number 1. At the end of the month, let's say just use, as Carla was saying, a bank reconciliation. How do I do that? right? What does it mean? When you reconcile at the end of the month, it doesn't mean that your close-off balance is where you are. That's where you are at the end of last month, but you may be in the middle of the month right now, and that doesn't mean that's what you know what I'm saying? That's not what you have. I think the lesson was a good approach, but it didn't leave steps that I think were practical to say, how do I go on? For us who are struggling in what we need to get done, it was over the head. It wasn't giving, it's left up to me to figure out how to take those steps. And I think that's what, as Carlos is saying, being able to have that information passed down. But I think we need to pass it up. I think if there's something that's needed, the conference won't know unless the church let them know we're lacking this and would like help. I think maybe if we have the word going up, then maybe something can come down. They realize that people are asking for it. Maybe that can start a fire somewhere.
Next question.
I have a question for Miss Venessa and then a question for you. So we talk about debt, like what is good debt, right? That's one question. And then the second question is, how would you advise someone when you're talking about credit cards? How do you make a credit card work for you while you have a budget? And trying to stay within the budget of, this is my income and I'm not going to go over into the negative. How do you make a credit card work for you within your budget? And what is good debt?
You want to start, Carlos, so let me.
All right.
As I said earlier, as Carlos talked about young people, trust me when I tell you, I made big boo-boos coming when I got into college. And coming from Jamaica, didn't know about credit cards, and they handed me credit cards and said, oh, you can get credit card. And I got caught up in that. And trust me, I know what it means. Now, in regards to good debt, I'm personally going to say I am not a subscriber to debt. Can be dangerous because even if you have good debt, if you don't know how to handle good debt, it can still become a bad thing for you. It's your understanding of debt. So what they talk about good debt would be something that's going towards your future, education. So you're getting a student loan because that's giving you higher earning capacity later on. The idea of getting a car, you need a car. But some people may say you don't need to get debt for a car. You can get a used car, you don't have to think about the payment, just get something smaller. But one of the main things is really educational debt because it's going to increase your earning potential later on, right? Now, in regards to credit cards, and I'm going to say, as Carlos and I say, we're not advisors, but I'm going to tell you how I've learned and what I practice. There are benefits to using credit cards. So when I'm paying my bills, generally what I do though, for me, is in my budget, I will account for those expenses that I have, my water, my light, my gas, all those different things. And what I do is to get the benefit of the credit card, I use the credit card to pay those bills. I have the money, but I use the credit card, but I pay it off at the end of the month because I'm already in my budget to account for that. So you get points, you get rewards, you get all those different things. And I do believe also your credit card gives you protection. If you use your credit card and you go, for example, living in Georgia and go to Florida, haven't been to Florida in years, the moment I swipe my card in Florida, I get a call from the credit company saying, hold on, this is unusual. Are you in Florida? Is this you using your card? And there's protection in your debit card that doesn't happen. You may be, but the greater protection is a credit card. So for me, I balance the use of the credit card in that I don't go over my budget still. And I use my credit card to pay my regular bills to get the benefit and the protection and still stay within the budget. I don't know if that's helpful.
Let me quickly kind of just agree totally with what Vanessa says. And one thing, the approach I adopt is, look, try each month. Try to say, okay, you charge these expenses in your credit card. Try to pay them off on a monthly basis. I know it's a difficult task, but set yourself a goal for that. Also, I don't think you need 5, 6 credit cards. That's in my estimation. I don't think you need more than one, for my purpose. I recall a life story when I back at the same church there. They had around 5 credit cards floating within the church, and no one was accounting for those cards. Obviously, I told they weren't doing a bank reconciliation, so therefore, they weren't managing those cards. So that's a problem. So therefore, what I would recommend is try hard to get rid of that balance. You charge your stuff, but get rid of that balance on a monthly basis. I agree with also what Vanessa said about I don't think there's any good debt or bad debt. What is important is that you work with your financial advisor and your accountant just to see how you can navigate and manage the resources. Also, remember, there's a lot of stuff on the internet, a lot of reputable, good stuff on the internet. Usually, I usually say, if you're in doubt, just go to Google Academics, because that's a solid source material. That's not just somebody just throwing something out there. Those are really peer-reviewed articles. Go there and get more information from there.
Oh, I was just going to say, what I've been using is the Dave Ramsey. He's written 2 wonderful books, and it's amazing. Last summer, I did it as a summer reading for some ladies, and it was so beneficial. One of the persons who participated, she was able to purchase a home just by going by that method.
Right. Yep. I've never really gone to one of the seminars with Dave Ramsey, but yes, I hear a lot of people say it's very helpful. But whatever resources you can garner, the idea behind it is that you want to try and get out of the debt. So therefore, whatever available resources you have, utilize those.
And I was talking about stewardship earlier, and that's key. It's also a test of loyalty, to be honest. And in Dave Ramsey's course also, because I've gone through that to Angela, and it is saying that he doesn't say tithing, but he says we need to give to charity. They have recognized in financial health or financial wellness, there has to be giving. We talk about, God says give to help. You give to help others that are less fortunate. In the regular world, outside the spiritual world, that's still taught that there is a benefit from giving. And if you're going to do your budgeting, do not miss being faithful to God. It actually carries a greater reward than you think. It's not a matter that you're giving it because, okay, God promised he's going to get me something, so therefore I'm going to. No. It is a relationship. It's building that trust in him. And when that happens, because you're honoring him, he rewards you. But I honestly believe the more you give, the more you get. I have proven that. I can testify on that. And that's what the Bible says. That's what God says. Okay. I hope I answered the question of the person that talked about the credit card. Carlos, I hope we did. I hope they're satisfied with the answer, or if they had anything else.
She says she's good. She's good at that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. She says I think she's gonna put in those milestones to ensure that, those credit cards go away gradually.
In your presentation, and hello, Vanessa, it's good to see you.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Pierre. Hello. If you know the voices, I'm not seeing it, so I can tell who you are, right?
Amen. I wanted to ask a question about the insurance part of your presentation. Is insurance something that you can also use as a retirement plan? I hear about these new products that they have out where insurance is actually offering like compound interest plans and things like that. Are you all aware of anything like that?
Yeah, I'm not up to date on that. But what I would suggest, especially for insurance, basically, you have insurance specialists and experts in that area. I think you perhaps consult with one of them to see whether or not, that's a plan. That plan is ideal for your needs. The banks usually too have financial analysts in insurance and all that, so they can actually help you with that also. I don't know if Venessa have anything else.
No, I actually have no background in insurance at all. I have nothing, no comments on that. But as I said, those resources, as Carlos was saying, are available in your banks. Those are free. You go and talk to them, and it's not a blanket statement because everybody has different goals and it has to be tailored to what you're trying to accomplish. So to be able to, even though that's not my background, I can say anything you want to accomplish, you need to go to somebody who can look at your specific case in detail. You let them know what you're planning to do, where you're planning to head, and what goals you have, and then it will be tailored, and then they would be able to tell you what plans or what options would work best for you. it would not be something that could answer in a general scale because everybody's different, needs are different, and goals are different.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions? All right, if there, well, yeah, there's one more.
Can you share your investment philosophy?
All right, that's a tough one. You see, my philosophy of money is a little different from a whole host of people, and I perhaps share another example. When I really think God placed us on this earth to manage whatever we have. And I think if you start effectively managing what you have, then you'll succeed. The whole idea, as I said before, if you earn $100, you cannot be spending 200. Remember, I told you about the situation with the church that I went. As a matter of fact, 2 large churches now I can test that I've been treasurer for. And people just spend like money's on the tree. You don't have the money. Why are you spending? Effectively planning for every expenditure. You know you're going to need a house next year. Just don't get up and expect the house is going to come that way. Start planning for that house. As a matter of fact, basically everything in my life I planned for. And I think I asked the Lord for that inspiration to help me to plan out my life. Because in essence, I can't just get up and say the Lord will actually provide. The Lord wants us to utilize the skills that He has given us to plan our way and to help others and to be good stewards of the resources. So in essence, I can't really say I have a laid out financial philosophy. What I tend to do is to anticipate things and plan as I go along. I can tell you this, financial student loan debt. Some people have 200,000-300,000 student loan. For me, I know I had that debt, and I know it had to be paid off. So what I had to do was to see how I can get extra income to take care of that debt. For benefits, if you make sure, for young people this is important, for me, make sure you work for an organization that provides the necessary health benefits, necessary 401k, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 years, and you're planning there for retirement. So just astute planning as you go along. I hope that answers it. Anything, Venessa, on that?
No, I'm not necessarily saying I have an investment goal. I just know that I want freedom. And when your hands are tied, when it comes to debt, you really don't feel that you just feel trapped. Your mind is about how am I going to pay this, and you really don't enjoy life when you're trapped in debt. Okay? Now, in regards to investments, I would say I am more, if I'm going to do that, I'm more of a conservative person. And at the same time, I do believe in diversifying. Don't put all the eggs in one basket. So if you're going to do very conservative, and you may put if you're investing, then you put a little bit in probably a more risky one, but it weighs out in the end when it's balanced. But don't put all the eggs in one type. I do believe in diversification. That's the safest bet. So when one is falling, the other one is still steady, or vice versa. You know, I just think it's important to analyze and see. But as I said, doing research, your financial goals and your plans determine what tools you use and what resources you use to get to where you need to. And that, I would say, is the important part. Figure out what you want to accomplish. Map that out. And then that will determine how you achieve it.
Any more questions? Oh, Chris has one.
Yeah, it's more like a comment. Thank you guys for your presentation. Right? I find it to be very beneficial. Stewardship is a very broad field. It covers many facets of life. We have been endowed or given the responsibility of stewardship from creation. God has given us that responsibility to be stewards of all the resources that we were blessed with. He has given us. But we have not done a good job at it, as we can see, because we have veered off from our understanding, our biblical understanding of stewardship. I think that's the foundation, right? I think when I listen to all the questions, I think we need to have a follow-up session that is tailored toward financial stewardship. That's a very specialized area, right? It's difficult unless the individual is serious about addressing debt and their finances and be given like the tools to do this. Most people who are going around who live today, you're bombarded by all these marketing advertisement, right? And so we develop this consumer mentality that we must have, right? That doesn't really benefit you long term, but it benefits somebody else, right? Mainly the corporations. I think that there is a distinct difference between need and want. And there's no such thing as a good debt. It can't be a good debt. God did not create us to have debt. He provided everything for us that we need, right? So it comes down to stewardship and how we manage our resources. Like you said, Dr. Carlose and Venessa, if you're making X, if you're making $100, you cannot spend 120. All right? So as a young man growing up, and I'll talk about this as long as I am around, I had a teacher back in high school that went to sell insurance. And the first thing he told me was this: save 25% of your income. And what he said was, if you make $10, human nature is of such that if you make $10, you will live off it. If you make $50, you will live off it. What you got to do is to understand, right? And since then, I've added, that's something I've done all my life. But I've also added the most important thing: tied in right off the top. 25% savings, and I live off the rest of it. And I'm not shy. You can ask my wife. I'm not shy about giving anything I have because it's not mine. Okay? And I think that we need to just stop the credit card. Now, I would make a suggestion about credit card, Dr. Carlose. Yes, it's good to have credit card to handle emergencies. The way credit cards need to be dealt with is if you see something and need it. I'm from Jamaica, so I'm accustomed to saving for what I want, right? But you can purchase as long as you know you can cover whatever it is that you're charging in 2 or 3 payments. That way, you don't end up paying some exorbitant amount of money, right, for something that's not worth it, all right? The other thing is talk to a financial advisor about your saving. You mentioned about the 401k. There's 403b. There's all kinds of Roth IRA that are after tax that one can invest in. Go to your financial institution and check those out and learn about the power of compound interest, right? Learn about it.
Yep.
So I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. As we say before, it's our health. It's our financial health. We are personally responsible for our financial health. Therefore, it means that if I see someone in, say, a house value, Michael Jordan, a house value, whatever it is, I don't have to live that way. I kind of stick to what I have, manage what I have, and then you will be surprised to see how the Lord multiplies what you have.
I wanted to add something, Carlos. Is there another question before you go? Chris, thank you so much for the comments you made. Seriously, we were thinking about having, this is just an introduction, at least re-emphasizing stewardship and just some key things to look at, but we already talked about we'd have to have a follow-up. But it's true. I mean, like one of the things the girl was asking about the credit cards and things like that. When you do your tithe and offering, it's not the last thing, it's the first thing. And then saving should be a part of it, where I know what I end up having to do. As I said, when I started to implement a plan, what I did was I told my employer, put this money in this account. I didn't even see it. It didn't come in my hand. It went to another account. And therefore, whatever I had left over in my hand, that was what I used. So there are different ways of doing it. Like now, being in Jamaica, unfortunately, Jamaica has gotten really bad at the scamming issue. So I use a prepaid credit card. I don't use a regular credit card. So what I do is work my budget out, and whatever I have for my budget, I put it on a card. And if they steal it, all I get is what's it. There's nothing to go. There's no credit limit to go over, and therefore that's something I practice here because of what we have in Jamaica. But being able to recognize that everything we want, we need to have. And being able to tailor and say, you know what, I don't need to be like the Joneses. And being able, and it's not a matter of how much you make, it's what you do if you make. There are people who make a lot less than certain people and are doing better off financially than those who have a large salary because they manage their money well. So don't feel discouraged and think that success with financial wellness is based on how much you make. Financial wellness comes from how you handle what you have. No matter what level or no matter what amount you make, it's how you handle that and creating that financial freedom, being able, and you'll be surprised that once we don't get caught up in debt, how far those resources can go if we manage them properly. As Chris was saying, in what he practices, he was able to accomplish so much.
In love, I know that there are some people in the church that have suffered because, some people come from other places where, like you mentioned, Venessa, when you came here, you were bombarded with credit cards and things of that nature. A lot of people come to this country and they get into debt because we have this credit thing that you don't find many other places. And people get in trouble really quick because they're not taught how to manage that. So what would you guys say to someone who maybe find themselves in a position where they have now destroyed their credit? What are some of the steps to take to repair that or remedy that situation?
You want to go first, Venessa?
Okay. I was going to say, like Angela, I've done the Dave Ramsey, so I'm going to use his practical steps, right? Is that when you're in debt, you have to put everything on paper and see where you are. And each of these, let's say you have credit card, each of these credit card debts would have a minimum balance, right? The aim is, if possible, pay all the minimums, but pay off the smallest one first and make that the highest priority to pay it off. So you just, sometimes we'll pay less. The minimum balance is 50 for each of those cards. We'll pay 100 here, 100 here because we want to pay them off. Target one. Put them in order from the lowest to the highest and pay off one. Get that out of the way. Just cover the minimum so you don't have any financial consequence with your credit score. And the moment you start paying off, you'll see your credit score start going up. Now, one of the things I want to mention that as it goes back to financial education, remember, credit score is based only on credit worthiness, which is based on debt. If I were financially sound and had a lot of money and had no debt and they run my credit score, it would be zero. And they think I'm not credit worthy, but that is not a true picture of where I am financially. You see what I'm saying? Remember, credit score is based only on debt. Right? So what I'm saying is society has a way of running things. God has a different way of doing things. And being able to understand what God plans for and what society says. Because society, put it this way, society wants you to live in debt. The banks make money, the credit card companies make money, they're making money. So as Carlos is saying, when you have your credit card and you pay it off in that month, there's no interest charge. But the moment you start paying little, guess what? Interest start building up, and that's not benefiting you, that's benefiting the credit card company. So it's why give them more money, make it work for you. Just as how you were saying with tax planning, the tax law is written in a way that there are rules out there. You just have to have a tax account or somebody who knows, because if you can substantially show it actually can work in the favor of the taxpayer, it's not always in the favor of the government if you find the proper rules, right? So, and the proper avenue. That's why it's so, why give money to somebody you don't have to? That's why we're talking about credit card debt. You're paying interest every month, and those interest charges are high, and you're filling somebody else's pocket. You're making it rich when you're actually, you know what I'm saying? It's being able to let it work for you and not work for somebody else, as Chris mentioned earlier.
Great response. And I say before, just some, I know my wife is coming next, so I'm going to hide. So I'm going to say this. For me, just try and see how you can cut those credit cards. Try. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to occur overnight, but just start. Start and so you can get rid of some of those credit cards.
I think you guys have some online questions, so you may want to look at that. She's going to ask her question, but just take a look at the online questions also.
Okay.
Hi, Venessa. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Good. I'm not just saying this because it's my husband, but let me tell you, I never see anybody can save like my husband. Before I met him, my mother, she's a spender. Every time she get her money, she just spend it. But when I met my husband, he asked me, where's my debt? I said, no, you don't need to know that. That's my business. And we put them together. Let me tell you, we married for 32 years, and we are, one of the biggest thing I learned from him is that never you walk into a store and everything you see, you just buy. Go home and think about it. And many a times, he's so right. You have the same dress in the closet, and you go into the store, oh, I need that dress. And you go home, you have it. You don't need to spend money like that. He said, think about it. If he's buying a shoes, and I said, oh, that shoes is so nice. He said, no, don't do it. I'll come back. And he think about it. He sleep on it. He see how he going to pay for it, or else he's not going into that store. The other thing is we have a house in New York, and when he refinanced on the house, I said, oh, we're going to get more money back. The money he got back, he put it back into the mortgage and pay off the mortgage really fast. I'm like, I thought we were going to get some extra money. No. It doesn't work like that. And we have 4 children, and one of them, my girl, take exactly like him. When she was going to get married, I said, so what about the money? She said, we have an extra account where we save for the wedding. And I'm like, what? And she don't spend like how I spend because she got it from him. And she's the only one. Because they always wanted to buy expensive stuff, and he talked to them. My son, who is in the Army, he taught him how to save. It's hard, but now he's 25, and I can't believe how much money he already have in the bank. And I'm so blessed to have somebody like him, because he will save out of a penny.
Carlos, I want to add something that Marie just said, and Dave Ramsey talked about this. He said when he had his kids, they never understood his concept. Remember, Dave Ramsey at some point was living out of his car. But he said when they would go to the fast food restaurant and they'd have the option of saying supersize their meal, he would say, you don't need to supersize. Just buy your regular meal. That 20 cents or 30 cents extra that you could use, could put it in a bank, and if you could see how that money earned interest over time. So he's, just as you're saying, Marie, there's some things that, as he was saying, we go for instant gratification, but he's saying that extra 20 or extra 30 cents you use to supersize your meal, you can put that in the bank and it will gain interest. The key thing is save, 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 especially when you're young. Do that, because when you get to a certain, you can probably buy a house for cash. You don't have to incur debt, and that's the key, being able, because many of us don't know how to handle debt. So I think that's why the Lord comes us, don't go there. He doesn't want us, he said, we become slaves to the debt holder when we in debt. And he wants us to be free. So yes, I agree with everything you said.
I understand there are a few questions in Zoom, but I don't see the questions.
I don't see
right,
them.
so,
Can they read them to us? Because I can't see them. I look in the chat and not see them.
Right. If you're on Zoom and you had a question, if you can just just unmute and then just ask the question.
Raise their hand, yeah.
So in essence, we're at the the final end here, and just want to emphasize and thank Venessa for the partnership she has developed with me to provide this presentation. Venessa has a wealth of experience, and my goal throughout life is to partner with others, whether or not they're in the same field, but partner with others just to see how we can move the mission ahead. Because the whole idea behind it is that, look, I alone can't do it. Stewardship depends on each and every one of us. So I'm hoping that after this presentation, we'll start just thinking about it. Think about the fact that, look, if we're not financially well, then I don't see how we're going to serve the Lord. So therefore, let's start just thinking about that as we go along. One more question.
Could I just, Maria said something, and I thought about it, about people's personality and tendency. Like some people more inclined to spend, some people more inclined to save. And like maybe if you're a spender, it's not a bad thing. You just need to be around some people who save and can advise you and to give you some guidance and some protection so that you don't, because I think that's, we're a body, and the Bible said that we're, help, each other, and
right,
probably,
and
so I'm just thinking that maybe, like, if somebody's not, on point with the saving and the budget and all of that, maybe it's just that they're more talented at something else, and we could just help out.
Right. I can tell you, and it's always a tall order, and to help people to understand that it's important to actually just live within your means. It was a challenge for me for the church in New York. That was a challenge, but the church was really in chaos, and money was the key issue that was causing the problems there. When I left the church, they saved over $300,000. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but what I'm saying is that just having the proper internal controls, having the proper responsibility in place. One of my church members used to say, they don't understand how the treasurer doesn't take the tithe. I said, no. If the treasurer is going to take the tithe from you, that money can go anywhere in my pocket. So I'm not going to take it. It has to be properly accounted for within the presence of others. As a matter of fact, in my treasure area, I had 4 associates, and I had a team of staff. So therefore, you find me in treasure maybe one Sabbath. So just a matter of doing the things in a proper way, accounting for it. Question further.
Yes, in the introduction, in the beginning of this session, it was stated that stewardship encompasses several areas. I wonder if you have, from a stewardship perspective, seen how a lapse in stewardship in any of the other areas of our Christian experience come to bear on our influences or performance in a financial area. And if you have, you could cite it. If not, we could probably team with whoever has that wherewithal experience to speak to this. because I think there might be some relation, but I have no evidence. I don't know if you could speak to that.
Sister Venessa, you want to answer that? You want to take that?
I want to say that in all aspects of life, just in stewardship, just generally, as you know, stewardship is really our life. How do we live our life in honoring God? If you're sick, you don't think clearly, you don't make sound decisions because you're focused on your lack of health, right? So therefore, in regards to sometimes the illnesses we have, sometimes is based on how we eat, when we eat, what we eat, all those different things come in. So if we're not proper stewards in health, it can affect the way we think, it can affect our decision making, stewardship of time. If we spend more time doing secular things and not spending time with God, it does affect how we view the world because we're now skewed in our thoughts, and therefore it affects whether we're faithful in tithe and offerings or not. It is all intertwined. Stewardship has to cover all aspects of life. And the key thing it's saying, in everything we do, all aspects of life, we have to honor God. And it will trickle and affect all other areas of our life if we're not proper stewards right across the board.
Right. And I wholeheartedly endorse that statement. Basically, as I told you before, throughout my life, everything is planned in my life. You can call me Mr. Planner, but basically, if I don't plan my way throughout life, and then that planning is not just my planning. I ask the Lord for his intuition and his inspiration in whatever I'm going to do. And trust me, it has been working. God can do miracles. God, the level of positiveness that I have for life is not just for me. I know God, because the only way I could think the way I think is with the power of God in my life.
Thank you, guys. Two things. I want to piggyback off of Sean, what he said earlier pertaining to an individual who may not be, they said, financial in that space. They don't onto the financial thing. They got to have an accountability partner. So when they make the decision, or even if they want to do it, they got to have somebody who is willing to hold them accountable. Like, so for instance, okay, I want to pay this debt off. Okay, somebody that I know that have that strength, I'm going to go to that person and probably tell that person, said, this is what I want to do. If you see me doing something outside of what I said I'm going to do, please guide me back to where I want to go. And that's why it's good to have like what we're doing now as far as educating each other and some principles and process that we can implement in our lives to guide us towards that financial space where we can be more generous towards helping people who need our whatever our traditional, generational legacy and all of that stuff as far as passing it down to children and children so we can change. And one thing, the other thing I want to say, Dr. Carl, going forward, you were saying this is something that you would want to see more. What are we going to do as a church to keep on moving forward with this so we can even have more people engage? Small workshops, what are the mindset as far as going forward? Because that's something that I would love to see more, because I'm very passionate about my wife. She's a free spirit. I'm the pincher. I want to say everything, but she's a free spirit. I'm pinching everything, which it's a balance, because you do need a free spirit, because you will choke people to death if you don't. You need a free spirit. So what we're going to do as a church to kind of, because I know other church have different programs that they do yearly as far as Dave Ramsey sessions and stuff like that. But what can we do as a church so we can, because we do a lot on health and all of that stuff, because financial wealth is good also, and you guys said everything play a role to make the whole thing work together. So how are we going to move forward? If you have any things.
Right. Stewardship has been new here. So what I'm trying, as a matter of fact, you did indicate to me that you want to join the stewardship department. So what we really need is more people to come on board in the stewardship department, Based on the church manual, the treasurer is supposed to be, and the pastor is supposed to be, and the stewardship lead. So we need more people, and I'm throwing out now, I need more people just to come on board. Because the more we have, the more we can brainstorm, and the more we can bring programs that are enticing to help us to accomplish the mission.
I want to ask you guys your opinion. I hear, when I come to these types of meetings at the church, usually the majority of people prescribe to methods done by like a Dave Ramsey's. I'm not a Dave Ramsey's type of guy. So I mean, is that a bad thing? You know, because I see just have a different perspective when it comes to financial habits and things of that nature. So what do you say to someone like me? Because I always hear certain things that's shared in these types of meetings, and I come and I enjoy coming, but sometimes I leave feeling a little disappointed because I feel like maybe I didn't get anything from it. I enjoy it because I do see that it's beneficial to most of the others that are in attendance, but you know, I find myself still wanting. You follow what I'm saying?
Right. Basically, as I said before, I have never done Dave Ramsey, and I think from what I hear, it's a good program because it wants anywhere you can garner or gain financial knowledge, it's important. And one thing I would encourage our youths to do, the young adults, finance is going to be important for your life. Start doing it in high school. I think some of the high schools are offering that too, financial courses, because you really kind of need that foundation in order to help you later. So, bottom line, anyone who can offer any financial help to you, just garner it, make use of it, accept it, and just see how it fits into your plan, because everybody has a different plan. The financial advisor, he'll actually guide you and help you along the way. The banks offer free services too.
So there's no one shoe fits all.
No, because your situation is so different from mine. Mine's different from if for the church, if we're talking corporately, at the church level, I think we could have standards. But for individuals, I think it's going to be a little different because your needs are different. Because you think about it, for the church itself, corporate level, if you have a financial committee, you have a treasurer, and you have a pastor, that's kind of more corporate. So that's kind of easier to kind of put things in a bucket there, Although, as I said before, for the most part, from my analysis, based on the fact that I've been treasurer for 2 large churches, there's a whole lot needs to be done in this area. Yeah.
I want to add something. Pierre, let me see if I'm getting this right? Carlos is talking about, I do believe, and I've done Dave Ramsey program, but I do believe that we have enough resources in regards to councils on stewardship. If you follow Dave Ramsey program, I mean, he goes into the practical things of what's offered, but in regards to the giving and the tithing and all those things, it's coming from the Bible, right? He just packaged it a different way, but it's biblical. I think from our perspective, it's important to set the foundation that even if our church members were to go to a bank or financial advisor to tailor to their needs, the foundation of the spiritual part, we have enough resources from the Bible and also spirit of prophecy, I think, can get us on the even playing field. Just like how we may study Desire of Ages, if possible, Pierre, probably as a church, study counsel and stewardship and take it slowly. And then in that discussion, ask practical questions of how do I apply this, how do I apply this, then it becomes personal and everybody would now tailor it to their situation, because I don't think we can ignore the spiritual part. I think it's the foundation. And once we have that down pat, then whatever we may learn from somebody else will just add to where the foundation we have set. So I think it's important. And if that's what I'm getting from the other guy that asked too, How do we have something practical? Could we have a workshop? Maybe a workshop on studying the Bible clearly, specifically around finances and what he expects of us. And that's what I was getting. So maybe that's something I suggest. The talents is actually a good place to start because it goes into money and all the other talents. So that's what I add in regards to how can we do something practical as a workshop. We could study what God say about finances, and then it becomes personal. Once I'm convicted based on the knowledge of the Bible, then it affects how I address everything else. Even my goals may change after reading the counsel. If I'm off, let me know. But I think that's what I got from your peer and that other guy that was asked. I didn't recognize that voice.
I think we have two more questions. Paul is
correct me if I'm wrong, but let's take a step back for a while. The law of gravity says, if you climb on the housetop and you jump off, 99.9% you're going to break your head or your neck. So if I say to myself, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to defy the law of gravity, I'm going to pay the price, right? Now, it's kind of funny that the biblical principles, the world use it. And believe it or not, a lot of them have been blessed. It's the same across the board. So when I hear my good friend says he's not a Dave Ramsey kind of guy, I'm like, okay. But if we pay attention to what he's saying, he's simply saying, if I make $100, I can spend $101.01. It doesn't add up. So it's the foundation, and I can't defy that. I can't. So one of the things that the Lord has placed on my heart, he's saying, you're faithful. But you see the thing called first fruit of the top? There is a significant blessing that's embedded in that I can explain because you're making it first, right? And so it's like an additional faith you're using, or you're honoring God in that respect. Because I can be doing it, but I'm not really honoring, because I'll give you an example. I remember in the past, I've had checks that I've had in the drawer that goes for months until it expires. So I'm not good in that area. For some reason, when I get a check, I just most of the part ignore it. So I need help in that area. But the fact that the rule, it just goes across the board. There's no difference whether I'm Baptist, Adventist, Methodist. Dave Ramsey have some good points. I mean, if you just be faithful in the beginning. Because look, to be faithful to God, first fruit, that's a discipline that if you maintain that, other things will fall in place.
Yep.
Because, the impulsiveness of just wanting stuff, doing stuff, without even thinking about it, it's just crazy. And you can be doing it for decades and thinking that the more money you make is the more you're going to be able to solve your problem. And again, as Sister Venessa mentioned, you got individuals who make far less money than some others make, and yet they're in a far better position than the ones who make a lot. Is how you spend what you make, But God is here to bless us, and let us continue to remain faithful.
Right. Yeah, thanks for that, Paul. Thanks for that. We're kind of running close over, so we have another question another question, and because AY is going to come after this. So.
No, I was just saying the whole idea, because when you could really see to practice, because one of those is you pay the lowest bill, you pay it all first, and then you tackle the next one, and then how you make sure that you have what you were talking about, you have your emergency fund. Those things are what you start off first with, and then you go into the bigger ones, So and actually writing it down. I had a lady who came to the seminar. She had rented You know, he talks about this too, where people will be renting stuff. You ever know they go to the rental place and they rent the furniture, or they rent this, and you're paying maybe $1,000 for something that's maybe $300. And so, just bringing, those are things that you have a lot of people out there that's doing, and when you're able to get that, and it's like a light bulb going off. And so it's like a workshop, and you go through that, and you actually see the change that you could actually make good decisions going forward.
Right, thank you. You're so right about that, so right. Hey, Venessa, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Final thoughts. I'm glad to be here. I really am glad. I just feel like I'm home, as I said. And I didn't get to see the faces, but the voices I recognize, and that's good. But seriously, when it comes to financial wellness, it is an expectation of God. It's not that we're doing something. It's God wants us to be free in everything we do. He wants our minds to be free. He wants us to freely worship him. He wants us that if there's a need out there, we can assist, and we don't have to start struggling and say, oh my goodness, can I find $1 or $2? And we have to remember that Satan sets traps to keep us bound. God wants to make us free. So it's important for us to educate ourselves. It's a requirement. God talks about that. He wants us to, he said we perish for lack of knowledge. It's us to gain knowledge so we can find the proper ways to apply some of the things we're getting. And I hope this is just the start. Stewardship, as we said, is a wide area. And this is just an introduction. It's getting a taste to see God wants us to be good stewards. How do we get there? Some of us have made bad decisions. How do we turn those bad decisions into good ones? And it can be done. There's nothing impossible, but it takes discipline and it takes time. But it does take the power of the Holy Spirit to keep us on track. And that is where we're going to say it is a spiritual walk to get out of debt. Yep. It is not a practical walk. God is going to open doors when you honor him that you wouldn't even expect. That's why I believe it's a spiritual walk, but making practical steps. So I hope that those who are here and listening, that I hope you learned something from what we presented. For those who are trying to get out of debt, at least it has piqued some curiosity or hoping to get some steps in place. And looking forward to opportunity next time for us to have part 2 or part 3. But seriously, God wants us to be free, and I hope all of us will take that step to be free. He wants the best for us. Why deny ourselves that blessing that he has in store?
All right, thank you so much, Venessa. You have been an inspiration to us this evening, and all we can say is thank you. You've given us a wealth of information, and the partnership will continue as we go forward. For the entire audience, for those on Zoom, and for those in-house, I want to say thank you for your active participation. And I want to say to you in final remarks, just ask the Lord to guide you to become financially well. And tell ourselves that it can be done. You know, if you know anything about me, there's nothing that is impossible. God will find the solution. So let's just bring ourselves to that place whereby God can direct us in this manner. I want to just say a word of prayer as we close out. Eternal God, our most righteous and heavenly Father, Lord, Father, you've seen we've tried to present to your church, dear Jesus, what you've bestowed upon my heart and on Venessa's heart. Father, we just ask that you help each and every one of us gathered here to understand what it is to become a good steward, to become a better steward. And Father, as we move forward, guide and direct our lives and our ways. In your precious name we pray. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you. Goodbye. Enjoy AY. Have a good evening.